All right, man, peace. So Draymond Green, the mercurial, multifaceted power forward for the Golden State Warriors, sat down after Game 2 of the NBA Finals to provide his perspective on how the game transpired. So, of course, they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Thanks to the crew for scrambling and getting us set up here to talk to Dre and his shorts, which is a thing now, apparently. LeBron's doing it, Dre's doing it.
No, he did it first.
He did, that's true. That's true. That's true.
These NBA players are such fake-ass fashionistas, a bunch of big attention whores, trying to see who they can get to look at them for their ridiculous outfits. It's so retarded. Ain't nobody dressing like that in real life. Like, give me a break.
Inline award show, same color but different. I apologize. This one's linen.
Yeah, it's a little different.
No, it is different. A lot different. Different.
But you know what? The NBA would rather have their top shelf players promote quote-unquote high-end fashion and metrosexuality than the thug fashion that they were trying to promote in the late 90s and early 2000s.
Steve Kerr talked about before Game 2 about having a different approach defensively against LeBron James. Obviously, he had some numbers tonight, nearly a triple-double. What were you trying to do differently?
Just really play with some force. You know, if you look at that, especially that first half of last game, he just went everywhere he wanted to go, and there was no force. He got to the hole, he got whatever jump shot he wanted. And then in the second half, there was more force, but you let a guy who's that great get into a rhythm, and it's nothing you can really do.
Agreed.
From the start of the game, there was force into him, kind of trying to make him go where we wanted him to go. You're not always going to succeed, but if you play with that force over the course of 48 minutes, you end up better off than we did the first game.
Let me say this very quickly. I knew from jump when Kyrie Irving forced that trade from Cleveland that they would never truly be a threat to the Golden State Warriors, because just watching the games, if I were a quote-unquote fan of Golden State, I would have had far more fear of a Kyrie Irving with the basketball, especially at the end of the game, than even a LeBron James. And of course, LeBron has done a lot to controvert that sentiment this season with the multitude of clutch shots that he's been able to convert. But prior to this year, Kyrie Irving was the most fearsome player in the NBA in clutch moments. And his departure has done a lot to take away a lot of the potency of the Cleveland Cavalier offense.
Draymond, you guys had a great start. Talk about JaVale McGee. He came in the game. He had some good minutes in the third quarter.
JaVale McGee, a.k.a. Bambi. That nigga runs up and down the court like he got baby deer legs. You never know when he's going to fall or trip over himself, but he's played very well. I give him credit. Other than when he blocked himself at the rim.
Third quarter in Game 1, came out, starting lineup, his length. Just talk about JaVale and what he did, help you guys set the tone early on.
Well, one thing Steve always talk about with JaVale is him bringing that burst to the floor. Him sprinting the floor, him being that lob threat at the rim. And he was that for us tonight. He really sprinted into screens, dives to the rim, got layups, and as him as a rim protector on the other side of the floor, it gives us, something that, we really don't have anywhere else. And, he played great minutes for us last game and this game as well.
Draymond, this is your fourth time playing this team and going against LeBron James.
Well, this is really their fourth time playing LeBron James, because this is almost a completely different team than the team that was successful against them in 2016.
And I thought tonight, earlier, you guys gave him a couple of different looks. Sometimes you would trap, sometimes you wouldn't trap, sometimes you would force him left. You brought up McGee up to block shots. Talk about how y'all went into 1-2-2 zone, 2-3 zones, or if I was seeing that, or if I'm not seeing what I thought I was seeing.
Well, we didn't necessarily go into a zone. However, if you were playing great defense and shrinking the floor, it should look like a zone. Mm-hmm. And so I think that's what we really did. And LeBron is like a great quarterback.
I agree.
If you play against Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, and you play the same defense every time, they're eventually going to pick it apart. We gave him different looks tonight, just trying to keep him off balance. You give him a steady diet, he's going to pick you apart, and I think we were successful with it tonight.
And for those who pay attention, as LeBron has gone through the playoff rounds, except for Toronto, who he has a complete mental holdover, he's had a lot of difficulty dealing with multifaceted defenses that show him various and assorted looks. He struggled against Indiana at certain portions in the series because of the different looks that they were showing him in regards to how they were going to guard some of his teammates against Boston. He struggled in certain games. And against Golden State, I think that as the series goes along, he's going to become more and more frustrated. He's always going to get his points because he has the basketball in his hands too much. So, of course, people might say, well, what do you mean he struggled in certain portions of the series? He scored over 40 points 3 different times. Well, he's going to do that. He's a great player. But it's all about how many shots you make him take to get his points and how frustrated you can make him by forcing him into turnovers. And I think that as this series goes along, you're going to see LeBron James start to give up more and more turnovers because they're going to lock in more on defense, especially on many of his teammates. And it's going to force LeBron into a position where he's going to start putting his head down and driving to the basket, and they're going to sucker him into more offensive fouls.
You notice that you're going up to 2-0. You're going to Cleveland. You probably realize that. And so you would think that...
That's how the series is scheduled.
Yeah, in the back of your mind, you say, well, that game plan that they have hasn't worked yet. What do you think you have to prepare for in Game 3? Because you know that there's going to be something different. What is the different thing that you guys may expect?
Well, what they should expect is for a couple of their players to relax involuntarily, particularly Steph Curry and maybe even KD, but definitely Steph Curry. Steph Curry is known for relaxing, especially when they go up 2-0 in a series. He oftentimes plays very poorly in Game 3s. I can only think of a few Game 3s that he actually played pretty well in. I remember he played pretty well in the Game 3 against New Orleans back in 2015. But other than that, for the most part, in Game 3s, he does not play particularly well because they're usually up 2-0, and he tends to get a little lax. So they have to watch for that. Because when Curry gets lax, he gets lax on defense as well. So you could possibly look for George Hill to have a big first half in Game 3, or whoever Steph is guarding, maybe even a J.R. Smith. LeBron may come out in Game 3 and say, I want to get J.R. off, to get that monkey off of his back. Even though at this point, King Kong is on that dude back. But watch for that in Game 3. So Draymond is going to have to be very cognizant and aware of the fact that many of his more talented teammates tend to relax when they go up 2-0 and they're going into hostile territory.
I think, they'll try to get JR more involved.
Absolutely.
Try to get Kyle Korver and those guys more involved. We've been obviously good to have 2 home games to start off this series and go up 2-0, but those guys will play better at home. And I think
absolutely. Korver's another one. I neglected to mention him. Kyle Korver is someone to watch in Games 3 and 4.
And I think
Sean Livingston is going to have to nullify him. Sean Livingston's mind is going to have to be more on defense than on offense in Games 3 and 4, especially if Iguodala can't play.
Giving up some shots here these 2 games that we get those up, they're going to make them at home. So we got to make sure we come out locked in, trying to take everything away and not get them anything easy going into their home arena.
Defensively tonight, they were in extreme switch mode. On the ball, off the ball, everybody. And it seemed like it made for a lot of advantageous matchups for you guys. What did it mean for you offensively when you realized what they were doing?
We've kind of been facing that over the years now with teams switching everything. And I think the way Houston played us, the way they switched everything, it really got us ready for that. And that's pretty much what they're going to do. They're going to switch Tristan out. They're going to switch Kevin Love out. What we can't fall into is just ISOing. I think we did a great job at night of continuing to move the ball. It'll eventually find who it needs to find. And, that's been a key, when teams started switching for us, and it's been a key in this series as well.
The main criticism, really the only criticism I have of Draymond thus far, is his incessant need to believe that he has to take a wide-open 3-point shot just because he's open. There's nothing wrong with taking a couple of dribbles inside the 3-point line and making a long 2-point shot. I'd rather see you make a 2-point shot than continue to shoot 15 or 20% from 3, bro.
Well, Draymond, every night you are known for bringing the energy and the intensity. And, for all of us watching, we kind of take it for granted. And the question I always wanted to ask you this, do you ever get tired? Do you ever not want to be that guy who's responsible for bringing the energy and the intensity, not only during the regular season, but during the playoffs? I mean, every single night, you have to be on. And if you're not on, then there's a problem for this team. How much pressure is that for you from an energy and intensity standpoint, just to have that every single day?
Before Draymond answers, let me say this about Isaiah Thomas's question. It's a very good question. But I don't think that it's difficult for Draymond to get himself hyped up every game because that's his bread and butter. Literally, if he was not that dude that gets himself amped up and his team amped up, he wouldn't even be in the NBA. Because he does not have enough overall raw talent to be in the NBA without being a firebrand. And that really is his purpose on that team because everyone else is so laid back and relaxed. They're able to tap into some of that frenetic energy that he has from growing up in that female-dominated environment and make it something constructive. Every once in a while it spills over. Especially a couple of years ago, he seems like he's reared it back a little bit as he's gotten older. But they've been able to convert a lot of that chaotic energy into something that's productive, both for Draymond and for the team at large.
It's a lot of pressure, to bring that energy every night, and it gets a little tougher in the regular season.
Because some people, they can take off.
Absolutely,
you can't.
I can't, and when I do, it shows in our game.
Yes.
And so it's a lot of pressure, but nonetheless, I can't say that I ever get tired of it because that is my role on this team.
Absolutely.
It's like hey Steph, you tired of shooting tonight? Like you tired of scoring? No, you got to go score the ball. That's what you do for us. So yeah. I enjoy it, being that for this team, and it's like I said, it's a lot easier to get up in these playoff games than
but
it is in the regular season.
Isn't it easier also because a lot of times you walk into the arena and you're the villain. You're the guy that everyone wants to point to be the villain. So then you're already engaged in that activity of getting the team up because they're screaming things at you, typically that they won't scream at Steph, Kevin, or Clay.
Absolutely. When people make me out to be that villain, it's natural energy because all of a sudden.
Hey, welcome to the club, baby.
All of a sudden, now it's me against the world. Right. And I'm going down battling. I'm going down swinging if I'm going to go down. So it's natural energy. I definitely feed off that going into opposing crowds, opposing arenas, and that crowd is screaming and yelling and you suck and boo. I love that.
Draymond really embodies the modern day amalgamation of Dennis Rodman, Rick Mahorn, and Bill Laimbeer all in one. That's why Isaiah Thomas, I think, kind of gravitates towards Draymond.
Draymond, you talk about roles, and certainly Steph's role is to shoot. And in this fourth quarter, he got hot. Some of those mismatches and some of those shots that he made, we're watching in the back in awe. And I'm just wondering, with the guys, do you guys watch that in awe, or is that just something you're accustomed to seeing throughout the season, practice, preseason? Is it just sort of like everyday occurrence for you guys?
Well, I think number one, you're still in awe. No matter how much it happens, we're still in awe. But you're talking about a guy who we watch on a daily basis shoot half-court shots during warm-ups and probably make 3 to 4 a day. A guy who every week and a half he makes a 3/4 court shot. Like it's a guy who we've watched over and over. So
does he shoot like that in practice? Those type of shots in practice the same way?
Absolutely. Right. And in his workouts he shoot those shots. Now it's kind of crazy, but I think he prepared that way and he showed.
Well, the crazier people train, it oftentimes is going to show itself during the contest. Muhammad Ali used to train by standing in a corner and allowing a sparring partner to throw punches at his head while he held both his hands on the ropes, just to see if he could evade all the punches while he was sparring or while he was drilling against his sparring partner. That's why oftentimes his reflexes appeared to be so razor sharp during the actual bout, because he drilled that.
He shows it in games for sure.
I also saw David West hitting his first 3 since November.
That was a huge shot.
That was a huge 3 for
It was.
I think that was when David West hit that 3. That was kind of a backbreaker because they had made a run. I think they were down 8 at that point.
Yep.
And D West hit that 3. That was a backbreaker.
Now you guys obviously gone in this situation before. First 2 games at home, going to Cleveland. You played this team before. You've been in this spot. What's going through your mind as you guys, will fly there soon and prepare for Game 3? What will you talk about, in terms of what needs to happen in terms of taking care of business for you guys?
What they need to talk about is making sure that they bring it on the defensive end. Also, not to allow the referees to get into their heads. Please understand this is an NBA Finals. Nobody wants to see a sweep, especially for the player that the league is currently trying to market as the greatest player of all time. So the referees are going to do their best to give all the 50-50 calls to the Cavaliers. Make sure you play defense with your feet and not your hands, because they are going to be looking for any reach-in fouls to get your team in foul trouble. to assist Cleveland in as many ways as possible, knowing that there's a major talent deficit between the two teams. Those are the things they need to watch out for, making sure that they stay within their proper mind frame for Game 3. Don't allow themselves to lose their composure with the referees or with the foul calls. And also make sure that they bring an adequate amount of verve to the game, and they'll be okay. They may not win, but they'll be okay. And if they can keep the game close and play the same spirited type of defense that they played against LeBron in Game 2, they will wear him down the stretch of Game 3 as well.
Just how much better we need to be. You know, I think tonight we were pretty good, but we can take that next step. And going on the road, you have to take that next step. And we got to go in and play with a lot more force. We got to take care of the ball. They'll feed off their crowd, and man, it gets really loud in Cleveland. So, you know, we got to go locked in, make sure we're all on the same page, and just understand the force that they're going to come out with playing at home.
Absolutely.
What was Coach's message to you guys after this game? You know, you won the game, you won it convincingly, but I'm sure there were some things that didn't go well for you that you didn't like in this game. What did he say that we need to work on, that you need to do A, B, C, D, and E?
Well, I think they need to work on their third quarter execution. Cleveland has been able to hang with them in both games in the third quarter, which has been the strangest thing that I've seen, because they pretty much blitzkrieged every team that they played thus far in the playoffs in the third quarter. And Cleveland has been able to hang right with them and actually outplayed them in Game 2's third quarter. So I think that they need to make a more concerted effort in the third quarter of Game 3 to make sure that they can maybe put a little doubt in Cleveland's mind. We know that LeBron will get frustrated once the other more inexperienced members of the Cavaliers see that he's starting to lose faith, lose hope. They will kowtow, they will give in as well.
He just, talked about, throughout the course of the game, especially during that third quarter, we let them get loose.
Absolutely.
And we had a few bad turnovers that led to threes. And
in both games, they played well in the third quarter. Very surprising to me.
Dunks for them. So if we can take care of those things and understand that, and his number one thing is how much harder it's going to be. Everybody's going to say, oh, they're up 2-0, series over. It's going to get way harder for us going in there in Game 3. He was really stressing that.
Absolutely, because I believe that the Cavaliers have played them better in Golden State than any team that they faced thus far, even the Rockets.
So I want to ask you this, because I went to 3 straight NBA Finals. You went to two. And how does it feel in your fourth? I mean, from a mental fatigue standpoint, concentration standpoint, because I know my third one, right? We were almost fried, and trying to get back for the fourth. I mean, by the time we got to the Eastern Conference Finals, we were just dead.
Sounds like another excuse for why you got swept by the Bulls. No, you were not dead. You were dead after those 4 games, Isaiah Thomas. One day, brother, I hope that you can accept the fact that you lost to the better team in 1991. I hope one day you can learn to live with that. Look at Kenny Smith. Kenny Smith looking straight ahead, because he's like, this nigga's making excuses again. By the time we got back to the conference finals in 91, we were dead. Well, why did you say in the other documentaries that you've done on that time period that prior to the 90-91 season, you were working out 8 hours a day to the point where you hurt your wrist, and everyone was trying to get the three-peat because it was something that Magic and Bird never did? Brother, just accept the fact that you ran into that buzzsaw. It's okay.
How is this team able to sustain, compete, and also concentrate into this 4th year? Because I have no idea how that feels.
Well, they have a multitude of riches. That's one thing that definitely helps them. And then on top of that, they really have no peer. The Rockets came close, but they're not smart enough to beat the Golden State Warriors. Unfortunately for the Detroit Pistons, they play in an era where teams, in order to win championships, had to have a very high basketball IQ. The Bulls were not able to become a championship-level team until they got an elite level of basketball IQ. And of course, prior to the Pistons, the Celtics, the Lakers, the Sixers, they all had extremely high basketball IQs.
Well, I think, number one, Steve did a great job of managing minutes throughout the course of the season. He gave guys nights off. If God had any type of little injury, he's like, nope, you're out. And I think, that was great. And then just kind of trying to understand that this is our moment. We're right in our moment and not.
Absolutely. You have to seize it. All these guys are 28, 29, 30 years old. This is when they should be in their absolute primes. They should be like ravenous wolves, tearing at the prey.
Moment and not taking it for granted, not thinking, oh man, we're tired this year, we can get it back next year. You got to take advantage of it right now, and it definitely helps, that you got different guys on different nights that can fill it up. We don't have one guy who all season long we're going to and say, hey man, we need you to go get 30.
Right.
The next, another guy who we're like, you got to get 15 rebounds every night. Like, a lot of stuff is spread out on our team, and I think that helps keep us fresh throughout the course of the regular season and keep us from getting mentally fatigued.
So they can get a night off, but you can't.
I think it's a lot easier to bring energy than it is to knock down 9 threes.
It's Draymond Green, one of at least 2 style mavens in the building who wore shorts with a suit tonight. LeBron did it tonight again as well. I don't know if you caught his outfit.
Yours is money turquoise, though. It ain't money green tonight.
This was LeBron earlier. What do you think of the Red Sox?
They go LeBron coming to the game looking like a jackass. I guess he figured to himself, I can't win this series. At least I'll win the fashion show.
Sox with
I
this
like
look.
that. That's good, man. It hit with the Tom Brown blue and red stripes, white stripes. I like that.
I'm going to mess with yours, I think. Up close, yours is better.
I appreciate that.
And before we
question.
let you go, do you
The fabric
happen
is
to know
light.
anything about television desk repair?
Nah.
Okay, because ours kind of blew up earlier.
No, not kind of. It actually blew up.
Good luck with that.
Congrats on the 2-0 lead. Well,
Yes, congrats to Mr. Draymond Green. He's certainly an integral member of that team, and he is irreplaceable. Despite his mercurial nature, he brings things to that squad that cannot be replaced. So peace.